Oh, shalom Israel, shalom, shalom, shalom. Oh, how's everybody doing? How's my family doing? As everybody starts to begin to trickle into the chat room. Hey, it's good to have you all here on this edition of Blog Talk Radio on the first day night now, which is, I got to get used to too. It gives me another day to get my study together. That's like what happened today. Cramming in. It's like cramming for a test at the last minute, just getting everything figured out and get arranged. I believe in fluidity. All right. Hey, the sound checks are coming in. Thank you. Everybody knows the drill. We are well groomed when it comes to Blog Talk Radio. There's obviously no doubt about that. Yeah, Brother Ugly's always one up, man. Got 11 up there. He got the best sound system of everybody. You ought to be asking Brother Ugly what he got, because I always get 11 from him. Bless you, Brother Ugly. Hallelujah. Good to have you all. Good to see you in the room tonight. Well, anyway, I hope you all had a restful Sabbath day, Shabbat yesterday, and of course, the pastor's preaching yesterday wasn't, as long traditionally as usually is, but I tell you what, it was sure power-packed, and I got to be one to tell you, I've never heard it on that wise or considered, but it's amazing how, it was brought up, when Pastor brought it out, that Nathan went right back to the law, always, bringing back to memory and using as an example, and is the concrete way to show how, everything is right and how things have to be done in Israel. I mean, it was great. 4 for 1 and 5 for 1. Hey, the Father was always just. All right, glory to the King. Well, for those of you that weren't or didn't get an opportunity to listen in, 3 weeks ago or whatever it was, this is going to be part 2 of the study that I've been doing. I figured I'd be getting more than 2 parts, but I actually, after today and the amount of effort putting in this, I could go a little farther with it, but after tonight, I don't think it'll be really necessary because, I think you'll get the meat of it. But for those of you that weren't able to tune in or didn't hear the or didn't download the broadcast, this study is called The Woman and the Beast, and of course, it's referring directly to Revelation chapter 17, and the reason that I really had it in my spirit to do this, I just wait. Sometimes I have stuff that I've been working on, and I've talked about this before, literally years, and it's just not. Then all of a sudden, there's like a prick in the spirit. There's just a knowing. There's it's just time to put it out there, and it just was time, I guess. But because when you start getting into the areas of prophecy, it's a pretty careful area. There's always room for growth in there because we don't have all the knowledge. We're going to grow in knowledge and in grace and in truth, and as the Father exposes more and allows us to view more and actually take in more and more things manifest on the earth, of course, prophecy will make more and more sense. And, the illustrations, the symbology, everything that's behind the prophecies that, have been spoken, especially when it comes to the visions, the realm of the visions like John had and Daniel, they open up in greater detail. But it's like all things. Prophecy is a continual growth thing. Even through all the years here, I've been, by the grace of the Most High, been able to, because it's an area I really enjoy, but, by the grace of the Most High, He adds certain things, onto my studies, quickens things to my mind, and I really, I'm grateful for that. And the one thing that, I never try to do is, and I won't do, is I always try to let the Bible speak for itself because it's within the Word, at least you can get a good foundation built in the Word rather than trying to, put in the eisegesis or exegesis, into any study. So because obviously we're putting this stuff out before the saints and the Most High, and every time you speak, there's seeds that go forth. So, if you have any sense of wisdom, at all. You are careful what you present to the saints, because you don't want to have cause anything down the road that would be might bring in some type of stumbling block or something like that. But with that being said, one thing I wish I would have done was remember to turn the AC on in the tabernacle a whole lot early, because it's got to be 95 degrees in here. It's smoking. Oh well, that's what happens when you just ain't thinking. All right. Anyway, we're going to get started with the study. Of course, it's probably going to go close to an hour and a half, 2 hours, because it is with the course of my studies. I have a whole bunch of. I try to rely completely on what the Scriptures have to say, and the meanings behind the words in order to define the study, other than me trying to define it. But just to catch you up on part one, to refresh your memories, we started out talking about who the woman is in Revelation 17. The mother of harlots, mystery, Babylon the Great, the abominations of all the earth. Who is she? What does she represent? There's a lot of doctrines out there, a lot of theories, a lot of philosophies, and you find when you actually start looking into this stuff, if you do due diligence, you'll actually find out that there's pretty much one common consensus, one common theme, and everybody believes that. Well, not everybody, but there's a good host of people, and amazingly so, that they're all Christians. They have the Christian commentators from over the centuries, but they have this illusion, they have this, insight, or whatever you want to call it, their own reasonings that, the woman is Rome, and she's surrounded by 7 hills, and she rides the beast, and, she's going to rule the world in the end time. Well, I can tell you right now, that's not the case. First of all, these commentators are exactly that. The Christians, you can tell by their writings, you can tell by the things that they believe to be so, that they have no baptism in the Holy Spirit. They're not Israelites. It hasn't been given them to know the truth or know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven. So it's all the stuff you can take. And right away, anytime I start looking at that stuff, and especially when it comes to prophecies, and when it's written by these commentators and these pretenders over the years, you can tell right away that that's not what it is. It's got to be something, because they're just giving you an answer that that it's not what they believe it is. So that really helps to prevent, one from getting, caught up in the doctrines that are, brought forth by people that aren't Israel or have no business. But anyway, in part one, we talked about the woman, we talked about who she is, and the Bible tells us clearly in Revelation 17 that woman, when the angel was revealing to John, the prophet on the island of Patmos, who this woman was, he said that woman is that great city, which ruleth over all the kings of the earth. So who is that great city? Well, in part one, we defined who that great city was. Not only by using the demonstration of ancient Babylon, in the historical sense, but also lining up with Revelations and elsewhere that great city is no other city than the city of Jerusalem, which is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt, where our Messiah was crucified. Knowing that the foundation, that the woman is actually Jerusalem, it's going to be easier to understand how it's represented, or how her part is with the beast. And it is pretty crucial, and I can guarantee you that after the conclusion of tonight, you will have never heard it on this wise before. I don't think so, because, again, a lot of times when I'm doing my research, my homework, so to speak, that I'll know it's something that's, that hasn't been touched, because it's just not out there, not unless it's really off in a distant corner, back someplace in some pages in the internet, way down in the search engine or something. But I didn't see anything even alluding to it. So it's going to be interesting. I don't believe I'm deceived in this. At least I hope not, because again, I just let the word do the talking. But with that, we're going to get started, and we're going to get. And what I was going to do was cover the woman first, and then transition into the beast. And at the beginning of this study, it's going to be a little bit of mixing of both, and it's going to end up all mostly about some of the attributes of the beast in Revelation 17 and elsewhere, for that matter. All right. Now, there is, in the pages of Revelation 17, specifically, a relationship between the woman and the beast that is, for the most part, purely missed. And all you have to do is really look through it, and you can see that it's there. So we're gonna read through this, and you'll actually discover that there's a union there, that there's actually a real covenant. When the Bible talks all about that's what Pastor says. When you learn about biblical marriage, it's easier for you to understand in context and in the spirit what the Bible is talking about, the words on the page. And this goes the same for the prophecies. And you're going to find it remarkably that the union between the relationship between the woman and the beast is actually one of a marriage covenant. Okay, it sounds kind of off the chain, but just bear with me. And we're going to kind of try here and show you. All right, Brother Ugly, again, thank you, my brother, for always being diligent in posting for the saints. Appreciate that. And, of course, Brother Steve, Sister Wenda, for always being behind the scenes and, taking care of the business with the internet stuff. And, hallelujah, we're all great laborers in the kingdom. Anyway, also, Revelation chapter 17, get right into it. Verses 3 and then verse 5. Revelation 17, verse 3 and 5. And again, we're going to show the relationship, the unity, or not unity, but the union between the woman and the beast. Okay, so he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness. This is talking about the angel dealing with John. And I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-covered beast, full of the names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And upon her forehead was the name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the Mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. So we find out that she has one title so far, besides harlot. I'm concentrating on the word mother, all right? So keep that in the back of your head. The mother of harlots. Okay, Revelation chapter 18, verse 7. Revelation 18, verse 7. How much she hath glorified herself, and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, I am no widow, and I shall see no sorrow. So far we have a woman that is deemed as a mother. She also has confessed that she believes herself to be a queen, or is a queen, and she is no widow, okay? Let's go to Revelation 17, verses 10 and 11. Revelation 17, verse 10 and 11. All right. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. So now we're talking about the beast and the significance behind the beast. We have the woman. First of all, she's represented as a female. She's represented as a mother, as a queen, and as a widow. All right. And then we have the 8th beast, or the 8th king of the 7, represented as a king. Okay, the beast is denoted as being a king, as verse 11 tells us clearly that he is of the 7. Which were all kings, and the woman is described as a queen, as a widow, and as a mother. This is a family structure. As a queen, the woman has her place of rulership alongside of the king, but not above the king. As a woman, which is not a widow, or a woman who then must be joined or covered by a husband, and as a mother, okay, what I mean by that is, of course, she's saying that she's not a widow means that she actually has to have a covering or a husband, because the only way that you can be a widow is absent of a husband, okay, or a covering. Or as a mother, or one which has children, obviously the product of the union between the king and queen, or the union between the husband and wife. This woman, that great city Jerusalem, believes that she is being covered, or that the beast is covering her. that the two are married or in a covenant agreement. The whole Bible revolves around marriage. The whole Bible. I mean, it just brings it up again and again, that covenant, whether it's in, whatever light it's in. To take this a few steps further, there's also pretty good indication that this woman is a practicing polyandrist, all right? A practicing polyandrist. Revelation chapter 17, verse 7. And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and the beast that carrieth her, which has 7 heads and 10 horns. The word head in the Greek is the Greek 2776. I'll be using pretty much predominantly the Thayer definition, and once on occasion I'll throw in Strong's, but I believe the Thayer definitions give a more well-rounded definition of the word, a more well-rounded idea, picture of what the word entails. So the word head, the Greek 2776, I understand, Brother Ugly, you only have the Strong's, and that's fine. At least we get the context of it. All right, head. The head, both of men and often of animals, since the loss of the head destroys life. This word is used in the phrases relating to capital and extreme punishment. Metaphorically, anything supreme, chief, prominent, of persons, master, lord, of a husband in relationship to his wife, of Christ, the master, the husband of the church, of things, the cornerstone. And out of her unions and fornication, she will have mothered or been mother to a nation of bastard children. Mother is indicative of the one whereby the others follow or get their instruction. She's the first line teacher. But in keeping in line with the Torah, Yah will have the woman, this whole former holy city, put to death, for she went out and played the harlot with many and committed adultery against her husband, the one by whose name she is called, or the one by whose name others can make known that she belongs to him. This is her identity. It's like Isaiah 4:7, women shall take hold of one man in that day. We're going to do all this for ourselves, but let us be called by your name. This denotes ownership. In part 1, we talked about the city of Jerusalem being Yah's holy city, how it is called by his name, and because it has his name on it, and he looks at the city as a woman. Ezekiel 16 gives a perfect demonstration of how he brought her up out of nothing, dressed her up, prettied her up, made her beautiful, a holy place, and then she allowed herself to be, of course, it's the people doing it, but, the whole symbology is about the city resembling a woman. The same thing here. This woman, this Jerusalem, this last day Jerusalem, is the same one that Yah bears his name to. When his name is on it, that means ownership. That means he's the one providing the covering. So I hope you can all get the understanding of the relationship that is between the woman, or the great city Jerusalem, and this beast, which we're going to find out more about. All right, and then of course, like I just got done saying, the fact of the matter is the law says a woman caught in the act of adultery shall be put to death. So once again, the Father is Yah of his own word, and he will, execute judgment according to his word on this city, or this city he portrays or looks at being his wife. I mean, come on, the New Jerusalem is going to come down in Revelation 21 adorned as a bride. So again, the analogy is being a woman that is married, or being prepared to be married. The word lady is found in the words of the prophet Isaiah in describing ancient Babylon. And looking behind the word lady will tell you that it also means queen. Isaiah's prophecy also clearly shows that a queen and a mother carry the same connotation. Again, I got caught up. Okay, that was my notes there. But when I put that in there, I don't even know why I left it in there. That should have been edited out of there anyway. Hallelujah. Anyway, Isaiah chapter 47, verses 1. This is a good deal of Isaiah 47, 1 through 15. Isaiah chapter 47, 1 through 15. And again, this is talking about, ancient Babylon, okay, or the city of Babylon. But this is the same example of what's going to happen to Mystery Babylon the Great in the spiritual, as versus we already have the demonstration or the example what happened to the physical Babylon. So you can use the judgments are remarkably the same, but again, you have to go back and listen to part 1 to really get caught up on that stuff. All right, starting at verse 1. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground. There is no throne. Remember that she's a queen. She has to have a throne, right? Okay. O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt nobly be called tender and delicate. Take the millstones and grind meal, and cover thy locks, make bare the leg, and cover the thigh, pass over the rivers. Thy nakedness shall be uncovered, yea, thy shame shall be seen. I will take vengeance, and I will not meet thee as a man. This is the same judgment that's coming across, or will come upon Jerusalem. All you have to do is read Revelation 18 and go back and, if you don't want to go back and listen to study, you can just go look in the Gospels and what the Messiah said himself would happen to the city of Jerusalem. Verse 4, As for our Redeemer, the Master of hosts is his name, the Holy One of Israel. Sit thou silent, and get thee into darkness, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called the Lady of Kingdoms. The word lady, translated, let me go down a little farther. Verse 6, I was wroth with my people. I have polluted mine inheritance. I have given them into thine hand. Thou didst show them no mercy. Upon the ancient thou hast very heavily laid thy yoke. And thou saidst, I shall be a lady forever. This is the virgin daughter of Babylon. I shall be a lady or a queen forever, so that thou didst not lay these things to thy heart, neither did thou remember the latter end of it, or what's going to be the end of you, because you're making all these proclamations. The word lady, the Hebrew 1404, and this is the Brown Driver Briggs definition. It's the word Gebereth. It means lady or queen or mistress of servants. So she's also looked at as a mistress, but it does mean queen as well. So that lines up very well with Revelation 18 talking about the woman saying that she is a queen and not a widow. Let's continue reading, verse 8. Therefore hear now this, thou that art given to pleasures, thou that dwellest carelessly, that sayest in thine heart, same phrase, the same wording, I am and none else besides me. I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children. But these two things shall come to thee in a moment, in one day, the loss of children and widowhood. They shall come upon thee in their perfection for the multitude of thy sorceries, and for the great abundance of thine enchantment. The wording lining up Revelation 18 is remarkably similar. For thou hast trusted in thy wickedness, thou hast said, none seeth me, thy wisdom and thy knowledge it hath perverted thee. And thou hast said in thine heart, I am and none else beside me. Verse 11, Therefore evil shall come upon me, thou shalt not know from whence it rises, and mischief shall befall upon thee, thou shalt not be able to put it off. And desolation shall come upon thee suddenly, which thou shalt not know. Verse 12, Stand now with thine enchantments, and with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth. If so be thou shalt be able to profit, so be thou mayest prevail. Thou art wearied with the multitude of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, the monthly procrastinators stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee. Behold, they shall be as stubble, the fire shall burn them, they shall not deliver themselves from the power of the flame, they shall not be a coal to warm at, nor fire to sit before. This is like utter destruction, right? Because of the sorceries of the virgin daughter of Babylon. The same with Revelation 18. It talks about in 1 hour is her judgment come, and there's going to be a lot of weeping and mourning. Verse 15, Thus shall they be unto thee with whom thou hast labored, even thy merchants. From thy youth they shall wander everyone to his quarter, none shall save thee. There's nothing that's going to be anybody be able to do to save this city from utter destruction. All right, that part of it actually, we just went over that to try to signify something that I'm going to relate to later on down in the study, that there is a union, that there is a marriage, if I can use that term. There's a covenant, there's an agreement between the beast and this woman, that they carry on the relationship of being joined as having a union, much like a husband and a wife. They use the phrases king and queen, so you can see that this stuff is all written right there, and it just lines up. All right, Revelation 17, verse 1 and 2, and then verse 15. Revelation 17, 1 and 2, then verse 15. And now we're gonna kind of roll over from the woman I mean, part one talked all about the woman, so in part two, like I said before, I'm going to be rolling over more into the beast part of it, but we're going to look from the standpoint that this woman, the ability that she has, according to Revelation 17, it says that the woman sits upon peoples, nations, multitude, and tongues. That, she sits upon many waters, and the waters are symbolic of the nations of the world, or the peoples of the world, or the nations of the world. But she's been given this ability. The city Jerusalem, in the end, is going to have is going to be the city that is going to be ruling over the entire world. That's where the focus is going to be, the focal point on this city. And obviously, because it's the city that that the Father placed His name on, so it has great significance for the end times as well as for the Antichrist. Verse 1, and there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talked with me, and saying, and come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. All the world is going to worship the beast, the image of the beast, and because it says of whom all the kings of the earth. So this isn't just local, this is the entire face of the earth. Everybody's going to jump in bed with this woman, with this city, be in line with the city. Verse 15, Revelation 17:15. And he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. The word waters, as I talked a little bit about before, is the Greek 5204. This is out of the Thayer definition again. It means water, obviously. Water in rivers, fountains, pools, the water of deluge, water in any of the earth's repositories, water is a primary element, the waves of the sea, and figuratively used of many peoples. And the word sit, because she sits on, the waters where she sits are many peoples, nations, tongues, and multitudes. And the word sit is the Greek 2521 kathamai. Again, that's the Thayer definition. And it means to sit down, seat oneself, to sit, be seated, of a place occupied, to have a fixed abode, to dwell. And I want you to pay attention to the definition of this, because nowhere does it specifically say anything about rule, okay? I mean, I can understand that sometimes the word is symbolic, or it gives a reference or a frame of reference to somebody that's in rule, but according to the definition placed with her, she sits on many waters, or many peoples, in fact, the entire face of the earth, but she is fixed in a place, or she's dwelling in a place where she can actually, has been given the authority to do that, as a queen. See, the authority has to come from the king, given to the queen, so she can carry out whatever it is that the king's will is. All right, Revelation chapter 17, verse 7, and then Revelation 17, 9 through 11. And of course, we're going to go over these things many times in Revelation chapter 17, capitalizing, bringing out all these little specific points, because I don't like to try to chew them all down in one, just one section. I like to break it down and, kind of pick at a little bit of everything. And the angel said unto me, wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath 7 heads and 10 horns. Or the angel is about to reveal the meaning, or the hidden meaning behind the woman, so John can get a better understanding, because obviously the angel knows John doesn't. He's seeing something in a vision, but he doesn't know exactly how to portray that, or actually how to make sense of it. He knows what he sees, but he really can't explain it. So now the angel's going to do him a favor and at least break it down into some detail. In fact, he's going to break it in enough detail where John will actually understand, or be able to understand what he's saying. But for us now, 2,000 years removed, it's a little more difficult, because John, a lot of that related to the things that were prevalent in that time, if that makes sense. All right, the word head. We got to cover the word head in Revelation 17:7. It's the Greek 2776, again out of the Thayer. It's kephal, It means the head both of men and often animals. Since the loss of the head destroys life, the word is used in the phrase relating to capital and extreme punishment, which doesn't relate to the meaning in the context of this. Metaphorically, anything supreme, chief, prominent. So we have this beast which has 7 heads. Of persons, master, lord, of a husband in relationship to his wife. Again, we talked about the idea of polyandry, with this woman being associated with these different heads of the beast, these 7, and the beast itself is the 8th, which is totally opposed to the rule and the order of the Most High. But again, getting behind the word heads, it's anything that means anything that's chief, prominent, or supreme. Of Christ, the master, of the husband of the church, of things, the cornerstone. All right, and the word carry, very crucial to understand the word carry. We also understand by the word sit earlier that she has been given a place to dwell, a fixed abode, okay, this woman, because she sits upon many waters. And now we're going to, after understanding that, we're going to break down the word carry, which is the Greek 941. And going back to Revelation 17:7, this is the beast that carries her. So we have to find out what the word carries means. Again, the Greek 941. Perhaps remotely derived, this is from the Strong's, perhaps remotely derived from the base of the Greek 939. It means to lift through the idea of removal. Literally or figuratively, endure, declare, sustain, receive, and bear. Carry, take up. Basically, the beast is using the woman for its own purposes, and after he is done with her, he will have her destroyed. We know that by the 10 kings of this beast in Revelation 17, what he does to this woman in Revelation 18. So we're finding out that this beast is using this woman for his purposes. He has to have something that people can acknowledge to be drawn to. There has to be a focal point. Remember what I said earlier, that Jerusalem is the focal point of there isn't a country in the world that doesn't know the significance behind Jerusalem. Not a one. This world is going to use Jerusalem as the focal point, like I said, for its new world order. But it will be the beast ruling and not the woman. Okay? Remember that, because the beast is carrying the woman. He's sustaining the woman. He's bearing her up. It's not that she's sitting on top and bearing rule over him. It's actually him sustaining her, allowing her to have rule. Again, as the relationship between a husband and a wife, and that order is a king and a queen. The woman is going to be used to help draw all the nations to her. The woman is supported or sustained by the beast, not that the woman has rule over the beast, like we just said. These are just my notes that I read over again. All right, Revelation chapter 17, verses 9 through 11. And here's the mind that hath the wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits. All right, so we have here that John is being told that he's given this revelation, this mystery of the woman, the 7 and the beast, and he's saying that the 7 heads actually represent 7 mountains on which the woman sits. All right, the word sit, the Greek 25:21, again, we covered that earlier. That means to remain, reside, dwell, or sit by. So this woman sits or remains or resides or dwells on the 7 mountains. Not that she rules them, she dwells, she's allowed to have a seat there. And the Thayer definition, that was the Strong's, the Thayer, to have a fixed abode, to dwell, okay? Having something that, a place that you've been placed at. In John's vision, he saw a literal 7-headed beast, but the angel knew it necessary to provide John with the hidden meaning behind the heads when the angel reveals for John that the heads were actually, quote, mountains. There has been much theorizing about the true meaning behind what the mountains actually are. Many agree and concede that the 7 mountains are better related or understood as the 7 hills. And this is necessary in order to substantiate a doctrine which purports that the woman is Rome, the capital of Italy, of course, and the seat of the Roman Catholic Church, and the 7 heads of the beast are meant to represent the 7 hills which surround Rome. The fact of the matter is Jerusalem is also surrounded by 7 hills, and if one really wishes to challenge the strength of the present assumption that Revelation 17 is about the Church of Rome, there exists a valid argument against this error doctrine, which will be discussed shortly. I can prove beyond all shadow of doubt this has nothing to do with the physical, literal hills or Rome, okay? So what could or does the 7 heads of 7 mountains represent? We know that the word mountain does literally, mean an actual mountain, a physical mountain that you can see, that you can acknowledge. You got Mount Everest, and of course you got Mount Carmel, and all the mountains over in the Middle East. But according to the scriptures, the word mountain can mean regions of great strength and importance, i.e. thrones and dominions presumably scattered across the globe. So to put this understanding into more common terms, the woman, that great city Jerusalem, will dwell among, or will be supported by, an empire or empires, a kingdom or kingdoms on this earth in the last days. Some way, shape, or form. She's going to have an authority over her. All right, Jeremiah 51, 24, and 25. We're just going to read a few scriptures containing the Old Testament that actually uses a mountain symbolic of describing a region or an area or the strength of an empire, just to show you that a mountain is more than just a literal mountain. All right, Jeremiah 51, 24, and 25. And I will render unto Babylon and to all the inhabitants of Chaldea all their evil that they have done in Zion in your sight, saith the Most High. Behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain, saith Yahweh, which destroyeth all the earth. So the Yah is telling or calling Babylon, that great empire of Babylon, that ancient empire of Babylon. He's actually relating it to a mountain, a destroying mountain at that, which destroys all the earth. And I will stretch out my hand upon thee, and will roll thee down from the rocks, and will make thee a burnt mountain. So all we're doing is looking at that the word mountain can have more than just a literal meaning of a mountain or a hill. Amos 6:1, woe to them that are at ease in Zion, that trust in the mountain of Samaria, which are named chief of the nations, to whom the house of Israel came. So we have Samaria being identified as the chief of nations, being symbolized as a mountain or something, a great thing. And then finally we're going to go to Daniel chapter 2, verses 32 through 35. All right. Starting at verse 32, this image head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet of part of iron and part of clay. Till thou sawest till that stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon the feet that were of iron and clay, and brake them in pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like chaff of the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain, and filled the whole earth. So now we have more of a symbolic, a type of destruction, again, using a mountain. There is an order, there is a structure to rule that was created and established by the Most High. In the heavens and in the earth were these orders established, of those things which can be seen and of those things which are invisible. So now we're going to go and start really looking at what the other meaning of a mountain or a great thing or an immovable object or some, formidable thing that, has is a symbol of great power and authority and strength. Colossians chapter 1, verse 16 and 17. For by him, of course, that was Messiah, Yeshua HaMashiach, for by him all things were created, that are in heaven, that are in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones. Remember, this encompasses not only the earth, but the heavens as well. Whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers, all things were created by him and for him. So Paul just listed off, 4 things that were created by the Most High, whether we can see them or can't see them. And that is thrones, dominions, principalities, and powers. And, the things that were set up down here on this earth are just a shadow of what has really been created also in the heavens. Verse 17, and he is before all things, and by him all things consist. My personal opinion is that Paul is telling us firsthand of the power, structure, and order that Yah had created and established in the beginning. A kingdom cannot be effective and hold control unless it has a solid chain of command, whether in this earth or in the heavenlies. Paul tells us that the order of control is thrones, dominions, principalities, and powers. And then I'm going to go through and break them down quick, because some of the definitions of these four things will be pertinent and prevalent a little bit later in the study. All right, the word thrones, the Greek 2362. Again, the Thayer definition. You all have to look at the Strong's up there on the screen. The thrones, as in, the things that, one of the things that Yah created, thrones, as in a power. A chair of state having a footstool, assigned in the New Testament to kings, hence kingly power or royalty. Metaphorically, to Yah, the governor of the world, to the Messiah, Christ, the part and assistant in the divine administration, hence divine power belonging to Christ, to judges, tribunal, or bench, to elders. So we can obviously see by the definition of the word throne, thronos in the Greek, that it's a very high seat, kingly power, to the point where it's actually in a position of a governor, controlling the world, so to speak, metaphorically. All right, the word dominions, the Greek 2963, Kyriotes, again, the Thayer definition. It means power, lordship, also means one who possesses dominion. So we have kingly power, then we have lordship for dominion, thrones, kingly power for thrones. And it came from the Greek 2962, again, the Thayer, which is Kyrios, from Kyriotes. It's the owner, the one who has control of the person, the master, in the state, the sovereign, the prince, the chief, the Roman emperor. A title of honor and expressive respect and reverence with which servants greet their masters, the title given to Yah, the Messiah. So that's thrones, dominions, and principalities. The Greek 746, arche, from the Greek 756. This is the Strong's the definition. It means a commencement or a concrete, chief in various applications of order, time, place, or rank. So it's a principal thing, chief thing. Beginning, corner, at the first estate, magistrate, power, principality, principal, rule. And finally the word powers, but this is back in the Thayer's, Greek 1849. It means the power of choice, liberty of doing as one pleases, lever permission, the ability or strength with which one is endued, whether he possesses or exercises. So it's something that is given, a power. And this list is on like forever. It's like, there must be 15, 20 definitions here, but that's pretty much the context of the one I want to get at when it comes to powers from the Thayer definition. If you care to find a Thayer's, Thayer's concordance, to go back and you can get the full definition. But as it relates primarily to our study, it was the ability or strength which one is endued, whether or either possesses, exercises. So what we have is we have the definition, kind of like the categorizing of the four different type of powers, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. And we find again that Paul talks about this later on in the book of Ephesians 6:12, which everyone knows very well. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against, here he's going to give a pecking order again, principalities, powers, and against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickednesses in high places. Following the structure that Paul laid out for us, it is evident that Satan is the one sitting on the throne of his kingdom, as he has dominion and rule over all his kingdom. Then the next in the order, and under Satan, of course, is those demonic powers which have and hold the places of the principalities, and those which are the powers. So there's a pecking order. Then you have the minions. So, as it is, as you understand here in the earthly, or even understand Yah's kingdom and his structure and his power order, again, Satan mimics the same thing, because he has to understand that in order to try to be successful, he has to at least mimic or emulate what the Father does, because that's the only thing that actually works. He can't go out and devise things for himself because, first of all, they weren't created by him. And the only thing that can work is the stuff that the Father actually set in motion, that he actually gave credibility to, that he put his, he's got a signature on it because he's the one that created it. So Satan obviously can see that it works. He has to have this in order to actually keep control over his kingdom. And he does have a kingdom. Jeremiah 13:18. Jeremiah 13:18. Say unto the king and to the queen, humble yourselves, sit down, for your principalities shall come down, even the crown of your glory. All right, so this is something being spoken to the two rulers, the king along with his queen, okay, on the throne, and they have the principalities under them. And these principalities are going to come down, the crown of your glory, the thing that shows your strength, because you have all these, you have these rulers under you, like these in your providences or whatever. The word principality in the Hebrew is the Hebrew 4761. This is in the Strong's, and this means properly headship, dominion, principality, and it also means in the Brown Driver Briggs, a place at the head. Dominion, head place. All right, Revelation chapter 17, we're going to be back in 17, in and out, in and out, in and out. Revelation chapter 17, verse 9 and 11, as we continue to break down what the woman and the beast represent, according to prophecy. And here's the mind which have wisdom. 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits, on which the woman abides among, on which the woman dwells on, but not rule over. She's just abiding there. The beast carries her, remember, as the definition was earlier. It sustains her. It keeps her. It holds her up. Not that she rules over it. All right, in verse 10, and there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short time. So we're going to go back and look again at continuing breaking down what the mountains actually represent. These 7 heads, which are, according to the angels, 7 mountains, something of immensity, enormity, something of some extreme power and influence. And of course, there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, 1 is, the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. In verse 11, and the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. Now, verses 10 and 11 leave us with more questions surrounding the literal interpretation of the beast with the 7 heads, as the common consensus has one to believe that the 7 kings are the 7 rulers of 7 mountains, or 1 king for each head of the beast. If the 7 kings are meant to represent the kings which ruled over each of the 7 mountains, then the 7 mountains would more than likely not be literal mountains, whether they be mountains which surround Rome or Jerusalem, as it would be ridiculous to believe that each literal physical mountain of the 7 had a king which is in charge of that respective mountain. It'd be like taking Mount Everest and Mount Hood and Mount McKinley, and it'd be saying because the geological formations, or as people say that Rome is the woman at the 7 hills. Well, what if you had to play it out in context? It would say that each hill, physical hill, in the country of Italy, actually has a physical king ruling over the top of a piece of dirt. You see how utterly ridiculous that is when you actually break it down and look at it for what it is. So that in itself will tell you that this idea of the 7 hills and the woman is totally absurd, because it doesn't line up, it doesn't fit. To me, this is further proof that the 7 heads, the 7 mountains, must literally either represent global empires or kingdoms and or particular regions, or that these mountains are actually demonic principalities and not 7 or 8 literal physical mountains or hills. There are most certainly a whole lot of questions regarding these 2 verses. They try to stay in context with the entirety of John's vision of the woman and the beast. Okay, let us try and get an understanding of these 8 kings and their significance with the 7 heads of the beast. This thing kept playing over my head all the time. And it was just so important that, I had to write it down in my notes. The biggest key to identifying what and who the seven kings is making sense of the eighth and final king, the beast which actually carries the woman, because this is all revealed by the angel. Again, the wording we have from the prophet John is the clue to the eighth beast and the other sevens with it. All right, Revelation chapter 17, verse 8, and then verses 10 and 11. All right, verse 10. And there are seven kings, five are fallen, one is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short speech. Now remember that the Bible here is going to define for you what the eighth, the beast that is the eighth thing is. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the eighth, and is of the seven, meaning he is of the same origin. If you look behind the word of, it means same origin. So this beast is of the same origin of the seven, and he goeth into destruction. That's what perdition is. It's utter destruction. It is quite clear without distortion or argument that the eighth beast is of supernatural origin, not physical or seen, as John writes for us, that this beast will ascend out of the bottomless pit, as we read in verse 8. And because the eighth beast is of the seven, or of the same origin of the seven, then this by default makes the other seven kings supernatural in nature. There are also a few other ways to demonstrate that this line of thinking is correct. So if you just follow what I said, because this beast originated the eighth king, who is of the seven, and the Bible calls him a king, because he's of the same origin, the same title, or he is of the seven, which are all called kings, he ascends out of the bottomless pit. Or, of course, it's not going to be a man literally ascending. It's going to be a supernatural being coming out of the bottomless pit. We're talking about things that are in the spirit, not in the natural. Revelation 12, verses 1 through 3. And we're going to even try to prove further and clearly that this is something supernatural, that this is something demonic and not physical. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with sun and moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth and pain, to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon. And this dragon has 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his heads. Now the symbology here points to the structure and order of 2 kingdoms, Israel being one and kingdom of Satan being the other. The woman in these verses represents the nation of Israel, and the 12 stars represent the 12 tribes which make up the whole of the nation of Israel. The great red dragon is revealed in verse 9 of Revelation 12 when it tells us that he is also called the devil and Satan. So we already know who the great red dragon, it's the devil, it's Satan that has the 7 heads and 10 horns, but John is actually seeing him as a red dragon. And Satan is also depicted as having 7 heads and 10 horns, obviously. But in this vision, John also tells us that the 7 heads have each one a crown upon their head. That's very important to understand that, because Revelation 17, when it tells us about the heads, John does, he doesn't talk about seeing crowns upon their heads, but you're going to find out it all blends and comes together. The crowns indicate that the heads are kings, just as the 7 kings of the 7 heads of Revelation 17. The 7 mountains and the 7 kings are one in the same thing. So what you're seeing is a mountain or a mighty thing, and the crown on top of it presents to you a position of power, of some great immovable, great thing of influence, of power, of might. And again, the crown is just there to symbolize what type of authority this thing has, okay? So it's telling you something that's very high up in Satan's kingdom. Now remember, we're talking about spiritual. We've moved on from the natural. We're talking about the spiritual. That's what the beast is. It's spiritual. It's not seen as natural, and we're going to talk about later the reason behind the scarlet color. The mountains relate to us of something huge, something insurmountable, something incredibly powerful, and the crowns show us of the importance of these heads/mountains. Just as depicted with the red dragon, the heads or mountains are basically the 7 principalities which rule directly under Satan. What is important about this is in many ways that first it reinforces the fact that the 7 heads or mountains of the beast of Revelation 17 cannot literally represent earthly kingdoms, because in the context of the vision, the time frame of the representation of the dragon would have been before the birth of the man-child, and there should have realistically only been 5 heads on the dragon. And what I mean by that is the fact that when John received the vision, he saw this great red dragon with 7 heads. But as some people believe that these mountains or these heads represent actual realistic historical kingdoms on this earth, that means John should have only saw a great red dragon with 5, because at the time he saw it, the dragon had not even attacked the woman that was bringing forth the man-child. So, I mean, and then, but if you compare this to Revelation 17, later on when John is given the vision for the very end time with the woman and the beast, at this time he can see all 7 heads, meaning that, it can't be the same as Revelation 12 in the fact that these were actually kingdoms. So the two line up very well. All right, the 7 heads on the dragons are 7 major principalities which help in the rule of the kingdom of Satan. These 7 demonic entities are the rulers, the great ones of the Satan, the generals to the commanders, so to speak. They answer directly to Satan because he has a structure and an order. Another way to prove that the 8th king is of supernatural and the 7 kings of the 7 kings of the kingdom of Satan is provided in the death of the 2 witnesses. Let me see what time it is. All right, it's 7 o'clock, Saints. We're going to take a quick break. I do actually have to use the bathroom, so we're going to go ahead and take a ministry break, and we shall be right back.
Shalom, this is Sister Wenda. I hope that all of you are enjoying the broadcast that you're listening to right now. We appreciate each and every last one of you, our faithful listeners and supporters of the Straitway Truth radio broadcast. We try to make sure that we do our due diligence and do our best to ensure that you have the best broadcast as well as the truth coming to you in the hour that we're living in right now. If you would like to help us in this endeavor, your offering will be greatly appreciated in the work of the ministry of the Most High Yah. Our mailing address for your gift, offering, or letter of support is Charles Dowell Jr. That's Charles Dowell Jr. And Dowell is spelled Dowell. 506 Ellington Drive. Ellington is spelled Ellington. P.O. Box 32, Lafayette, Tennessee. And Lafayette is spelled Lafayette, 37083. Again, our mailing address is Charles Dowell Jr., 506 Ellington Drive, P.O. Box 32, Lafayette, Tennessee, 37083. If you would like to contact us by way of phone, the country code is 1, area code 615-688-3025. That's 1-615-688-3025. You may leave a message there, and, be the Father's will, we will do whatever we can to try to return your message. It is our hope and our prayer that as you continue to listen to the Straitway Truth Ministry, and as you apply the teachings of this ministry, that you are finding peace and growth within you, your family, and life as well. Please tell others so that the truth may also have an impact and touch others' lives, so that they may enjoy the benefits of the truth of Jesus Christ, just like we all are. Shalom, the King is coming.
Oh, hallelujah. Always love to hear the end of that. The King is coming. Glory to the King. Yeah, and that is true, Sister Wenda, like she had said on the thing. We do always always attempt to return all the phone calls we get. I was talking to Pastor the other day. I showed him a couple of them. Some of these things are just off the chain, and sometimes I'm almost getting tempted to do a video. Say, look, don't call Straitway because you want to talk about Donald Trump or politics because you saw one of the videos. or about some protest someplace in another city that you can find somebody else. I ain't got time to sit there and talk about all that stuff. Man, we got people that really want questions, or answers to questions. And I mean, this month alone, if the pace keeps going up, by the end of August, it'll be probably over 160 phone calls that have returned this month alone. So people are definitely listening, definitely calling in, and it's nice to see a lot of people are really interested. So, as the Father's drawing them through the avenue of YouTube and whatever, I hear, Yah's voice, through Pastor Dallas. So, that is very encouraging as his Father's raising up his people in the last days, awakening Israel. All right, getting back to the study, we're talking about the significance about the 7 heads of the mountains on the beast, Revelation 17, and doing the best here to substantiate that these are nothing absolutely impossible to mean the hills of Rome and the hills of Jerusalem, but these are actually spiritual demonic principalities that are actually part of Satan's kingdom. I mean, the generals that are right underneath him, like the really bad boys. All right, Revelation chapter 11, verses 5 through 7. Revelation 5 through 7. Talking about the 2 witnesses. Now, if any man will hurt them, notice that they use the word, the context, man, talking about a physical, literal human being. Fire proceedeth out of their mouth, and devour their enemies, and if any man will hurt them, he must in this manner be killed. These have power to shut heaven that it rain not in the days of their prophecy, and have power over waters to turn into blood, and to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will. All right, in verse 7, and when they shall have finished their testimony, talking about the 2 prophets, the 2 witnesses during the great tribulation, the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit. Now, we've already heard that this beast is the same one of Revelation 17. It tells us he comes out of the bottomless pit. Shall make war against them, against the 2 witnesses, and shall overcome them and kill them. Now, if it was not possible that the 2 witnesses could be killed by any man, for all attempts by mortal flesh against the 2 witnesses would lead to the death of the man or men which tried to hurt them. However, in the case of the beast which ascended out of the bottomless pit, this beast did have the ability to kill the 2 witnesses, because this 8th king was not of this earth, but of the hidden, the supernatural, and the spiritual. This is also proof positive that the beast of Revelation 13 and the beast of Revelation 17 are not the same beast. And that's for a whole other study. They are, but they aren't. For it says that the beast of Revelation 13, that he was able to make war against the saints and to overcome them. Saints of the Most High dwelling on the earth in the last days, saints of men who were of flesh and blood. But the beast of Revelation 13 could not kill the 2 prophets of Yah. This took that one particular beast of Revelation 17 that came out of the bottom. See how descriptive it is? It's not the beast of Revelation 13 that comes out of the sea. This is the beast that comes out of the bottomless pit. So you're showing the difference between Revelation 13 and Daniel 7 is earthly kingdoms, and Revelation 17 is strictly spiritual in nature, demonic, spiritual in nature. That's the difference between are they providing the same function? Yes. I mean, the beast of Revelation 13 is basically a shadow and type of what's actually going on in the Satanic kingdom. You're just seeing an extension of it, or you will see an extension of it in the last days when the beast arises up, from the people of the nations of the sea. All right, and then I got it down here, so I don't have to go into add Revelation 13:1. I wanted to make this point, though, so I do need to read Revelation 13:1 through 8. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the names of blasphemy. Okay, this beast come out of the sea, not out of the bottomless pit. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of the lion. The dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. And of course, you read Daniel chapter 17, it's talking about all 3 of these beasts as individual kingdoms, but here in Revelation 13:2, they're joined. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And I've thought about that one and looked at that 1,000 times. I actually think I know what it means, but I'm not going to say it now because it might be way off. It's just an opinion. But the Bible actually talks about a head being wounded. I'll leave that to go for you to all go look up. And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast who is able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things of blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against Yahweh, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. Verse 7. All right, and it was given unto him to make war with the saints, or flesh and blood, children of the king on this earth, and to overcome them, and power was given them all kingdoms, tongues, and nations. And verse 8, and all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose name are not in the book of the life of the Lamb slain on the foundation of the world. Remember that the whore that sits on many waters is going to have control or the influence over the entire earth. And you can read chapter 18. You can see of all the business the city is conducting. It's going to be like a literal world's type of what do they call it? A world's what am I looking for? Like what is that stupid place? The United Nations type of atmosphere, where people of all types are going to be in there dwelling, exchanging, bartering, whatever. But here we have, again, the whole context here is this beast here was able to make war with literal human beings. The Revelation 13 beast, or it took the Revelation 17 beast that came out of the bottomless pit that actually was the one that had the ability to kill the two prophets, because this is a spiritual war between these two. This here is a fleshly war. With the beast of Revelation 13, he didn't have the authority, the power to actually destroy the two prophets, or he would have. All right, so who or what is the scarlet-colored beast of Revelation 17? Again, the answers are contained in the prophecies of John. All right, going back and bringing even more of this out. All right, Revelation chapter 9, verse 1 and 2, and then verse 11. So Revelation 9, 1 and 2, and verse 11. So basically, what is the name of this beast? And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven upon the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. So right here we know by the context of what way it was written that the bottomless pit was sealed. And so the angel was given a key for the primary focus and function of opening it. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by the reason of the smoke of the pit. The word bottomless pit is the Greek number 12, abuso. Again, this is the Thayer definition. It means bottomless, unbounded, the abyss, the pit, the immeasurable depth of Orcus, a very deep gulf or chasm, lowest parts of the earth, used of the common receptacle of the dead, especially as the abode of demons. Revelation chapter 9, verse 11. All right, talking about, we have this angel went down, the fifth angel went down, opened up the key. If you read the verses between, verse 2 and verse 11, you'll find out that the locusts came out with their long teeth and the scraggly long hair and the crowns on their head. You can go back and read all that, but that's what came out of the pit. But anyway, after this pit was opened, verse 11, and they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue has his name Apollyon. All right, the Greek, 623, Apollyon. Thayer definition equals destroyer, the angel of the bottomless pit, the destroyer. And Abaddon, Hebrew word, the Hebrew number 11 in the Strong's, a perishing, concretely Hades. Very important to understand that Hades. He is not only the king over the bottomless pit, Abaddon, but he also is the king over Hades. Abaddon or Apollyon was and is the beast that was and yet is not and will be again. Well, why will it be again? Why is it not now? Because we're going to look at that. My belief is that the angel of the bottomless pit, the angel of destruction, is the scarlet-colored beast that John saw in Revelation 17. And this beast will come out of the pit with the sounding of the fifth trumpet, or at the end of the time of sorrows, and at the beginning of the 3.5 years of tribulation. The Messiah bound this angel and placed it back in the pit after he rose again from the dead, and he held the keys which unlocked it. Revelation chapter 1, verse 17 and 18. And when I saw him, I fell at his feet as dead, and I laid his right hand upon me, saying, Fear not, I am the first and the last. This, of course, the Messiah, talking to John. I am he that liveth and was dead, and behold, I am alive forevermore. Amen. And I had the keys of hell and of death. Remember, the angel in chapter 9, Revelation, had to get it. The angel was given a key to open up, to unlock, to unseal the bottomless pit. And when he did that, out of the pit came the king over the bottomless pit, Abaddon, or Apollyon, destruction. And, of course, the locusts and the band of locusts and all these things were unleashed at the end. But when it says that Apollyon, the beast that was, when it's talking about Revelation 17, John is saying that this beast was and is not, meaning currently when John was given the vision, this beast was not there. It wasn't doing anything. It wasn't, spiritually, it was either dormant or it was being, bound for whatever reason. But he said it will be again, and my conclusion is he will be again when the angels give him the key to unlock the bottomless pit, and the king that is over the bottomless pit comes out. All right, and that's going to be the eighth king of the seven, and that's going to be the destroyer. Revelation chapter 17. Oh, okay, wait a minute. The word hell in verse 18 of Revelation 1:18 is the Greek 86, and it's the Thayer definition, Hades, or plural, the god of lower regions. So Abaddon is, the destroyer comes out of Hades, destruction, and hell is also Hades. So, Jesus had the key to Hades, or the key to the bottomless pit. All right, Revelation chapter 17, verses 10, back in 17 again, and 11. And when I saw him, I fell at his feet as dead, and he laid his right hand upon me. Oh, wait a minute, I'm here. I'm going to verse 10. Forgive me, saints. All right, verse 10. And there are 7 kings. 5 are fallen. Key in on this. 5 are fallen. And one is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. So we have verse 10 here. The angel is describing for John, revealing the mystery of what's going on here, and the beast, and the heads, and next, verse 10 talking about the kings. There are 7 kings, 5 of which are fallen. One currently is, when John was had in the vision, and the other's not yet come. So we're dealing up to the time of John getting his vision, actually 6 kings. One hadn't come yet, and when he comes, it's only going to be in existence for a short time. And then the 8th beast, which I believe believe wholeheartedly that it is Abaddon. The 8 is of the 7, and he's going to be loosed at the fifth trumpet, and that's right. That is right. Let me see when that is. That is right before the 3 woes too, which is another really good study to get into. Anyway, John is told by the angel that of the 7 kings in verse 10 and the final king of verse 11, 5 of the 7 had already fallen. One currently was a king at the time of the vision, and 2 more kings were yet to come. So just repeating myself, reading my notes. The whole of the verse tells us of 5 kings who are fallen, meaning past tense. A king of the present, or that time, at that time, presently, and 2 kings to come, meaning future tense, talking about the 7th king and the 8th king. All right, the word fallen, the Greek 4098. This is in the Strongs. Greek 4098, pepto. The first is reduplicated and contracted from the second, da-di-da-di-da. Anyway, it means a lightning, to fall. The key word, it means to fail. All right? Failure. To fall down, light on. Failure is not being able to complete something, to bring something to closure, to an end. It's a failure. So this should actually be looked at, and we're going to show why it needs to be looked at. 5 are fallen. 5 have failed, is what it is, and 1 is currently not failed when Paul gets revelation, but he's doing something. But 5 have already failed in whatever their tasks were. It is critical to understand that when we read the word fallen, that we not assume that this is to mean that 5 kings have been destroyed or have ceased to be, but that the 5 kings have failed, meaning the purposes for which they had intended to perform had failed, and their agendas failed. Misunderstanding of this fact that the 5 kings had failed and not been removed or destroyed also portrays an ideology that if the 5 kings had indeed been destroyed and been a thing of the past, then the woman would not have been seen in the vision as being carried by 7 heads or 7 mountains in the future and the last day meaning. Failure is not the removal in the sense, but only literally failure. So what I'm trying to say there, the woman that John saw that was being carried by the beast, where her dwelling was, John would have seen a beast with, one head, okay? One head, and that's it. But he saw a beast with 7. And what I mean like that is that the fact of the matter is that these kings were representing literal kingdoms that, they had already failed. They'd already been destroyed and fallen. There was no sense in, they couldn't be related to the mountains that they were sitting on. I hope that made sense. Sometimes I ain't the best at explaining things, but I do try. So where exactly did these 5 demonic giants of Satan fail? Where did they foul up? Where was their failure? And until the point of John receiving the vision, this is only speculation. That's all it is, because sometimes you just can't. I wish I could give everything just, line upon line in a way that there's no room for any type of speculation. But unfortunately, sometimes I do have to put a little bit out there. This is only speculation, as I do not have concrete proof of what this failure was, but there is some direction, there is some hint in which to go based on the writings found in the book of Daniel and other writings. All right. Let me see. Daniel chapter 10, verse 11 through 13, and then Daniel chapter 10, verse 20. So we have 11 through 13 and then 20. And he said unto me, O Daniel, a man greatly beloved, understand the words that I speak unto thee, and stand upright, for unto thee I am sent now. And when I had spoken this word unto me, I stood trembling. Then said he unto me, Fear not, Daniel, for from the first day that thou didst set thine heart to understand and chasten thyself before Yah, thy words were heard, and I am come for thy words. He had come because he had been petitioning the Father. Daniel had been. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days, but lo, and Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, and I remained there with the kings of Persia. Something very significant here. We're talking about the word prince, which you're going to break down, but there's a prince of Persia. This cannot be a literal king. This couldn't be Cyrus or Darius or anything. This is actually a spiritual being, a very powerful one, because it was so powerful that he actually had to give this king, this angel, I believe it's Gabriel. I didn't go back and look, but I actually think it was Gabriel, which is one of the chief angels in Yah's kingdom. I mean, this principality was so powerful, this prince, that Michael, the archangel, we all know by Daniel chapter 12, actually had to come and give him a hand so he could actually go and see Daniel. I mean, that was the war over this one man's prayer. It was so powerful that it moved Yah, and there was a huge war to try to prevent Daniel from receiving the visions. All right, and they remained there with the kings of Persia. All right. All right, Daniel chapter 10, verse 20. Then said he, Knowest thou wherefore I come unto thee? And this is the angel talking to Daniel. You know where I came from. And now will I return to fight with the prince of Persia. Now this would not be a literal spiritual being returning to fight with a man, because the man would have a chance. But this is a warfare in the spiritual realm against two powerhouses, in one in the kingdom of heaven, of course, being Gabriel, and the other one, the prince of Persia, which I actually honestly believe is one of the mountains that is underneath Satan. Remember the dragon with the 7 heads? This is one of the one of these strong guys, one of his generals, one of his big guns. And when I am gone forth, lo, the prince of Grecia shall come. So not only is he's going to go back and fight with the prince of Persia, but when he's going to go here, the prince of the Greeks are going to show up too. And so these powerhouses. The word prince is the Hebrew 8269, and it's the word sar. This is again the Strong's. It means head person, captain, chief, or general, governor, keeper, master, lord, master. So it can be the general of Persia, or some of the highest ranking. And of course, we talk about in the military, the highest rank that anyone can possibly go under the commander-in-chief. So if you break this down spiritually, you have Satan, then you have who's the commander-in-chief of his kingdom, then right underneath him you have his generals, and which I believe there are 7, actually 8 when Napoleon gets cut loose in the end. All right, Isaiah chapter 51, verses 9 and 10. I put that in here. I wasn't going to. I don't know why, but I did. And for what reason? Maybe I forgot to take it out. But I'll just go ahead and read it. I remember I was telling you earlier about the head that in Revelation 13 got wounded. I believe it's actually talking about this. Probably, it's speculation. You can't prove it, but it's the best indication we have in the Bible of at least trying to make that, understand that when the wounded head that was, healed. Isaiah 51, verses 9 and 10. Awake, awake, put on strength, O arm of Yahweh. Awake as in the ancient days and the generations old. Art thou not it that hath cut Rahab, which is emblematic of Egypt? It actually symbolizes Egypt. Art thou not that hath cut Rahab and wounded the dragon? So somewhere there was a tie between, putting a cut in Egypt, or seriously, going to war with Egypt and putting in such a desperate, desolate, wounded state that it's actually talking about that almost like the dragon, is part of, it actually directly affects the spiritual realm, talking about the dragon. And you can call it Leviathan, you can call it, like in Revelation 12, call it actually Satan. So it probably could be one of the heads, I don't know. Art thou not which hath dried the sea, the waters of the great deep, that hath made the depths of the sea a way for the ransom to pass over? But again, this is all talking about war, heavy spiritual warfare, with the big guns. All right, every system in the history of this world is comprised in the beast. The Revelation 17 tells us that the beast is the 8th king, or the last in the line of 7 kings. John had been told that the 5 of the kings had already failed, that there was a current king, and there was one king left to come who would only hold power for a short time. After this last king will come the final king, the beast, or a bad Napoleon. It is pretty clear that this is historical. It is pretty clear that this is in historical context, as according to the angel, when John received the vision and understanding, 5 kings had already failed, meaning past tense. And I'm going to try and bring that out how they failed. I had actually considered that the 5 failures, this is the way I thought about this for a long time, until I really started to bear down and look into this thing and get a little bit more understanding of what everything represented. I'd actually considered that the 5 failures were rooted in the captivities of the nation of Israel, or to keep them in the permanent bondage or that sort of thing. But I had to dismiss this idea as the whole focus and context, combining Revelation 11, 17, and 18, have to do with the great city of Jerusalem and the attempts to rule over her, and to remove the name of Yah from her. Up until the time of Jesus the Messiah, there had been 5 earthly empires, or 5 kings which had ruled over Yah's holy city after the Most High had declared her as such. So we can't include Egypt into that, because at that time Jerusalem was not known as Yah's holy city. Back then it was actually known as Jebus, and before that it had a few other names. People actually say that, and I've never really looked into it a whole lot, but it was actually called Salem in the early days, and that's where the king of Salem, Melchizedek, apparently came from. So even back then, before Yah even declared it his holy city and put ownership and his name on it, calling her his, it was already, being the emissary for the Most High. All right, anyway, up until the time of Jesus the Messiah, there had been 5 earthly empires or 5 kings which had ruled over Yah's holy city. After the Most High declared her as such, they are as follows: Babylonians, the Medes, and the Persians. And if you look historically, they're pretty much combined their rulership because they're in the same region. And some people can, kind of, divide the two. And I chose not to for my own personal reasons, but whatever. All right, Greeks, Egyptians, and Assyrians. So there we have the 5. And at that time of the vision, the Romans. So here we have 6, or lining up in the time of the 6, the 6 kings. Of course, we know by history that the Ottoman Turks ruled over the city of Jerusalem for many hundreds of years. But how could this then line up and make sense according to the length of rule of the 7th king, as the Bible tells us that his rule is only going to be for a short place or a small amount of time, which could not constitute hundreds of years. It doesn't work. It is important that we stay in the confines of that which has been written within the pages of the Bible. We have biblical historical record of the 6 empires which ruled over Jerusalem, but there's not mention of any empire until we get to the end of the days before the return of the king. What we must not forget is that this whole thing has to do with ownership. Everything has to do with ownership. Who has the claims and the right to the city, that great city that Yah placed his name on, Jerusalem? This is the city where he put his name. She belongs to Yah, okay? And she still does, and we're going to show when that transition. In fact, we brought that up a little bit in part 1, but we're going to cover it briefly here again. Of the 6 empires which historically ruled or had control over Jerusalem, there had never been a time that Jerusalem had been completely under the rule of the Gentiles. Key statement. The Bible tells us there will be a time when this happens, and it will be and I can make that point without being speculative, because the Bible tells us when the time frame is that it will be completely ruled by the Gentiles. So if it's going to be at that time, that means it wasn't before that or prior to it, okay? The Bible tells us there will be a time when this happens, and it will be at that point when the name of Yah, when the name of Yah will depart from his city, that city Jerusalem, and it will be wholly given over to the Gentiles, and it will become a city of desolation. No, brother. That never even came up in my thought in this, but that's a good point, brother. It really is. Hallelujah. You actually have to consider that. All right, Revelation chapter 11, verses 1 and 2. We're going to show you that how this city went from Yah being Yah's holy city to finally coming under the control of the enemy. And the obvious reason is it was given control, the whole control, or holy. Let me read this. It'll make more sense. And there was given me a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood, saying, Rise and measure the temple of Yah, and the altar, and them that worship therein. But the court which is without the temple leave out, measure not. For it is given unto the Gentiles. This holy city is actually given. At some point in time, this is in the very end. Up until that time, it was never been given. But now we have the declaration by the angel to John. It is given to the Gentiles. And the holy city shall they tread under foot 40 and 2 months, which is 3.5 years, or the years of the great tribulation. Okay, Luke chapter 21:24. And then they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. And the time of their fulfilling is when it is wholly given over to them. The whole entire city. There's no longer any representation, any light. The only representation of any light in that city, no one manifest light, is going to be the 2 witnesses that are going to openly walk the streets and prophesy and pronounce judgment, and no man can hurt them. So who do I believe the 7th king, which is to have control over the city for a short space? That's the one I haven't talked about yet. I've talked about the 6th, but I haven't talked about the 7th. And this is just going to be for a short time. I believe it is those impostors over in the land that they call Israel today, the Jews. What has to be understood is that when the Balfour Agreement of 1914 was contrived between the British government and the Ashkenazi Edomite Zionist Jews, this not only opened the door for the impostors to move in, but also made it possible for those who were true Israelites to once again return to the city. Are the Jews visible? Are the Jews visibly the empire which now rules and controls the world? Well, obviously not. They like to stay hidden. But they certainly are the hidden movers and shakers behind the scenes, controlling and ruling to the ends of the earth. Excuse me. And seeing as they have only been ruling in the land of Israel for 68 years, I would consider this a short space. So what was the failure of not only previous 5 kings that John spoke of in Revelation 17, but ultimately the 6th king? The failure by the princes, the generals of Satan, were in that they were never fully able to remove the ownership. Again, the key, they were never able to fully remove the ownership away from the holy city that the Most High called by His own name. Remember, the woman, the modern-day city of Jerusalem, will be the center and the focal point to the whole world, as it will be the city from which the Antichrist will rule. And of course, we all know that there's being a third temple, literal third temple being built over there right now. In fact, they have what is it called, the temple website or something? You can go online and they'll actually show you, where they are in the planning process. And focal point to the whole world, it will be the city from which the Antichrist will rule, the city which will be completely supported and ruled by the whole of the demonic kingdom. And that city will be completely under the authority of the scarlet-colored beast, or Apollyon, or Bad, the destroyer, and the 7 great ones of the kingdom of Satan. The Bible tells us that this city will become the dwelling place of every, not just a few, but every nasty, foul spirit in existence. And it's no wonder, as the greatest display of the dynasty of the devil will call this place, this holy city, his home. Revelation chapter 18, verses 1 through 3. Revelation 1 through 3. Okay, verse 1, and after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and has become the habitation of devils. This is at the point when the city was wholly given over to the Gentiles completely, when it was given, when it was handed to them. Babylon the great is fallen, has become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Everything. I mean, it's talking about a complete run on on Babylon. Whether it's some people call it a system, a Babylonian system. Well, the whole world's going to be run by the whore or out of this city. So yeah, it's going to be a Babylonian system. It's going to be, but it's going to have its own set of rules, laws, and that's all going to be brought in and established by the man of sin, the son of perdition, the Antichrist. But this city is going to be the hold of every foul spirit, the cage of every unclean and hateful. I mean, every form of wickedness is going to be in this city, because the power structure of Satan's kingdom is going to be right there at that place. In verse 3, for all the nations have drunk the wine of the wrath of fornication. The kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are wax rich through the abundance of her delicacies. All right, that's the conclusion of part 2 of The Woman and the Beast. I sure hope it made sense. Brother Ugly, good comment. But I really do. And of course, as I said at the beginning of the show, this is not Elder Becker. This isn't written in stone, so to speak. But through much study, of course, prayer and meditation, I believe I'm on the right track. I hope I'm not fooled, but it makes sense to me. So, but I don't believe for 1 minute it's Rome or the 7 Hills in any way, shape, or form. I mean, of course, the Pope yields some type of power. There's no doubt, but he's all part of that same power structure. They all work for the beast. They all work for Satan. So they're all in collusion. Honestly, I believe that the Jews have more authority behind the scenes than the Pope of Rome. He's out front and everybody's looking at him, but I actually think he's just a puppet for other people. Again, that's all, questions for, another teaching. But anyway, that's the conclusion of this study. I don't know if there's going to be a part 3. I actually have about another, I guess it's 20-some pages, going into detail about the 10 horns and other things, but literally, if you can read that, and it gives more of a description, you can actually bring more out of it just by reading. There's not a whole lot of more you got to do in the way of the 10 horns, which, they have a function. They're there. They're going to agree 1 hour, and they're going to, with the beast, and they're going to take out, they're going to take out the whore. They're going to destroy the city. So, anyway, Again, I hope it makes sense, and that's always your hope, because it's never my intent to try to put something where there is something isn't. So when I say that it's speculation, that's what I mean. So it's definitely open for whatever changes in the future, and I welcome. But anyway, hey, I appreciate you all joining in tonight, and I hope you enjoy the study. Again, if you care to, and you did hear part one, it should be archived on Blog Talk someplace. But again, I sure hope it was able to bring you some kind of understanding. And again, as we've talked about before, of course, we're closing in on Tabernacles, and Pastor said it 1,000 times, but I'll make it 1,001. I believe we've reached, definitely, we've got probably more people coming to this feast than we ever have. We actually went a little bit over what we said, but I don't think we're going to budge anymore, because it's going to be a whole lot of saints. There's going to be a lot of new faces here too. A lot of really sounds like sound, especially a lot of young men, that are, have a love for the Most High and a drive and to be righteous and to be holy. Y'all again just remind you to, make sure that it's a cooler time of the year, and don't be fooled. I mean, sometimes it can be what they call Indian summer down there in the fall, and it might be beautiful, but hey, the weather is subject to anything, especially the way they control the weather systems nowadays. So, we can lift up prayers against it, but still be prepared, because we're wise men, be prepared. So you bring your extra warm clothes and things to waterproof your tent, and, stay dry during the day and warm during the day and night, and just common sense stuff, so you're not miserable during the feast, so you can enjoy every aspect of it, the fellowship and the teachings and whatever. But anyway, I think that's about it. Again, keep your prayers, lifted up for, of course, Pastor first and foremost, that, the Father continue to open up to Pastor His will, His word, and His way for our edification, for our growth, as the Bible tells us. And, and pray for one another, that we may be healed, that we may go on, be strengthened, going on to perfection, because it's not about the individual, it's about the whole. It always has been. But, swim lane. Brother Steve, I'm not sure what a swim lane is, bro. That's way over my head. Is that some graphic stuff or something? You lost me. Anyway, hey, bless y'all. It's good to see you in the room. Brother Steve, Sister Winter, of course, and Brother Joe and Kelly. Brother Charles, good to see you in there. Brother Scott, of course, our brother, your faithful brother here. Brother George, good to see you. I haven't seen you in the room, George Parker. Good to have you in there. All the saints, Brother Mitchell, hallelujah, and all the saints who are listening by phones. It was a pleasure, and it was a real honor and privilege that you could join me, and, just endure with me. I hope it's not in my falling, really. Okay. Anyway, you all have a good evening, a good rest of the week. Be encouraged, keep looking up, and we'll see you all in, I guess, 4 weeks, maybe. Yeah, it's 4 weeks now, because we got 4 brother rotations, so 4 weeks. But, hey, that gives me time to get something down. But anyway, all right, bless y'all. Shabbat, or shalom, shalom, shalom. The King's coming.
Uh-oh, look at him looking.